Hi, this is Alvin from Dr. Wealth. DeepSeek impact has not dissipated after it came to the fore during the Chinese New Year period, and it has propelled the stock market in China and Hong Kong even higher, especially Hong Kong, especially the tech stocks. So if we look at the Hang Seng Tech Index, it's up more than 30% since the start of the year. So this rally has been coming in fierce. Of course, Chinese stock investors have been very familiar with this, seeing a lot of strong surge and then only to fizzle out in the second half. But I would say that this rally is definitely much fiercer than the other periods of the earlier rallies in the past. And there are, of course, some fundamental change in this case because there's this technological breakthrough that China has achieved, and sentiment about China stocks have totally shifted altogether because of DeepSeek alone. And we see this impact translated to stock gains, not just among the big tech companies in China, but even other peripheral plays, which I will disclose more in this video itself. Let's talk about some of this DeepSeek development, right? So definitely it's a star AI model that is used not just in China, but the rest of the world. And many companies are capitalizing on this popularity. And Tencent, being the largest tech company, in fact, the largest stock in China, is not going to let this opportunity pass. And what they have done is not just to put on the DeepSeek model on their Tencent cloud, but also to incorporate into their WeChat. And we know that WeChat is probably one of the most successful chat platform that could rival the West like WhatsApp, and it's used by 1.3 billion people. And they have been toying around in experimenting this DeepSeek model in WeChat, where you can use your AI search using the model that is by DeepSeek rather than just the Hunyuan model that's done by Tencent. So this will open up the ecosystem, right, of Tencent to DeepSeek adoption. That would make it even more powerful. And of course, in this case, whether is it Meta AI embedded in WeChat, no, WhatsApp, or the open AI may have some competition coming from WeChat. Of course, it's just within the ecosystem, but in terms of number of users, that could really boost DeepSeek adoption. Okay, so of course, when it comes to investment, right, you can't really invest in DeepSeek because DeepSeek is a private company. But because of all these proxy bets, right, all these Tencent, Alibaba start to put in DeepSeek model into their ecosystem, those stocks become investable, right? You can get a piece of DeepSeek via these companies, and this is one of the core reasons why the share price have been rising. And the other company that we should talk about is, of course, Alibaba. And Alibaba didn't just again adopt DeepSeek in their cloud services, but also now they're partnering the Apple to incorporate some of the intelligence services for iPhones or even iPads or any other devices in China. Okay, because we know that in China, you can't just bring in foreign cloud players as easily as you could in other countries, and it is a closed system. Therefore, Alibaba became a very good partner for Apple. Initially, Apple was working with Baidu, but for whatever reason, they felt that one partner was not enough and they chose Alibaba as the next partner. So Baidu is still working with Apple, probably not as much as previously envisaged, okay, with now Alibaba into the picture. And another development, just yesterday, right, there was a meeting between the Chinese government with President Xi heading it, together with the rest of the tech leaders in China, with Jack Ma, okay, included in the audience. And this is the picture where we can see that Xi is shaking hands with Ma. This is a very symbolic and a very important one, especially in high context culture in China, right? A lot of things are not said outright, but through action, through certain signals, we can tell roughly what is going on, right? So we rewind back a few years ago, Jack Ma said something that angered the Chinese government. He was specifically criticizing the financial regulation. At that point in time, Ant Financial or Ant Group was going to list IPO. Last minute, it was pulled out, it was not allowed, and the whole thing failed. And there was a series of tech crackdown in China, and that includes Alibaba being the biggest victim. So most people see it as is a revenge on what Jack Ma has said. And Jack Ma eventually went away, right? Stayed as a low profile guy for many years, even stayed overseas. And then at the same time, when it started to come back to China, started to appear in Alibaba events, and that's also at around the same period that China started to stop its regulation, right, stop its crackdown, and it said that it was satisfied with the changes that these tech companies have made. And this image further shows that the animosity between the tech sector and the Chinese government is almost gone, right? They buried the hatchet, and the whole fiasco that started this tech regulation is now over. With Jack Ma now back in good terms with the government, this is a very good sign. More progress is likely to come, right, in the tech sector in China. So that would also give some boost to the share price. And this is Alibaba share price. And I show you the more complicated chart here because there are some important points that I want to mention. This rally is a very positive one. Why? Because the stock now is breaking out of its highs, right? It's a 1 year high and even the 3 year high. So this is a very significant point where we can say that the rebound or the recovery of the stock have started, and Alibaba is going to a new bull phase. Okay, it has broken out of its consolidation of its base, and this is usually more bullish than bearish, right? Of course, granted, the share price have rebounded from like $80 to $127 in a span of a month or less, and that is fast and fury, and we don't expect it to continue to go up in like a rocket kind of a pattern. At some point in time, the price will pull back, and the only thing is that the pullback should not force the stock to drop back to the bear zone or go back to the consolidation phase. It is more like resting for a period before it goes up further. So even from a technical standpoint, right, the analysis is that Alibaba is more in a bullish phase than a bearish phase as compared to, say, the last 3 years. And if we look at the cloud players, not just Alibaba or Tencent, right, the share price generally has gone up. Baidu less so, up 3%, but actually it was doing quite well until it was, so-called, it lost some of the AI development contract to Alibaba. And on the other hand, the Baidu founder was also not invited to the tech leaders conference together with the Chinese government. So some investors felt that, hey, it seems like they are like falling out of favor as opposed to the other players. Okay, so that could be some short-term sentiment that drive all this price movement. But I also say that Baidu isn't the foremost AI. I also say that Baidu is not the foremost cloud player in China. It is Alibaba that's the biggest, and Tencent is quite up there. Huawei is quite up there. So it is likely that it is not favorite bets among investors, I would say. Okay, there are market leaders ahead of Baidu in this case. Then there's a small player like Kingsoft Cloud somehow also have benefited from it. They didn't get into the negative limelight like what Baidu did, so their share price was also up on 19% in the past 5 days. Right? It's not year to date, it's 5 days. So indeed, this DeepSeek impact has really rallied quite a lot of these stocks. In China, the telecom players are also cloud players. Okay, so they do provide cloud services on top of telco services in China, and they are quite a big player, inclusive of like China Mobile, China Telecom, and even China Unicom. All three operators, the biggest three, are incorporating DeepSeek model in their cloud services. And let's look at the share price, right? So the share price also rallied. China Mobile went up 4% in the past 5 days. China Telecom went up 13%, and China Unicom went up 18%. So you can see that this rally is broadening. It's not just limited to the big tech companies. And also the data centers, right? Even less well known than telcos. So we have like Sunny Vision, which have telcos in Hong Kong, and it's up 58%. GDS is another data center in China, and they're up 32%. It is likely a spillover effect because if there are more cloud players adopting this DeepSeek, they are likely also to need more spaces to store their servers, and that the demand for data centers are expected to go up. So these are some of the not so obvious plays, but you can see that they are all being sprinkled with the DeepSeek stardust at the moment. And yes, Fast and Fury, be careful. Understand that there will be pullback sometime in the near future, but generally this is a very good development that we can see in China. And finally, China is breaking out. It is also in the so-called the bull phase, and one way to, if you believe that this DeepSeek impact is going to last longer, of all the China investment, of course, the tech-focused one will be doing better in this kind of environment. But of course, not to say that the other kind of investments in China are bad, right? So the dividend plays actually have been very, very strong in the past few years, not just this year, which also includes the telcos, right? Where telcos give very good dividends. So I would say that there are the longer term strategy like dividend plays in China will still do quite steadily over the long term, right? But for those who believe that tech is still going to be the forefront, given that DeepSeek is really driving a lot of innovation and a lot of changes to the landscape, and as well as the Chinese government has made peace with the private tech sector, and you want to bet on that, I think the Hang Seng Tech Index or the Hang Seng Tech ETFs, like even the one that's listed on Singapore Exchange, would be a convenient play for people who want to consider this. Okay, so all in all, I would say that everything points to a rebound stage for China stocks, and it should be a good year for Chinese equities. Of course, barring any major global news that may impact the stock market, not just in China but the rest of the world. But most importantly, Chinese investors have finally seen the light at the end of the tunnel now. Of course, now is to travel out that tunnel into a brighter future. Thanks for watching, and please like this video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.